Something dirty from Jeremy, right? Hey, internets! It's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Welcome to Paradise Academy. Season 2, Episode 36, Those Spaces in Between. This is the second season of our Welcome to Paradise, Michigan Kids on Bikes RPG campaign. And in just a few minutes, we will get into the game proper. As you can see, we are down a couple. Literally a couple. Rosie and Laz are a couple. And they're not here. So we can wonder where the two of them are when they're not here. Couple of quick announcements before we get into the game. First off, just so I don't forget this, if you look up over in the corner above M and Tamiko, you'll see that is where I keep the Terrain Treats Domain Pops, +1 to fun. They are a way that you, the viewers, can have an impact on the stream simply by subscribing, resubscribing, gifting a sub, cheering 500 bits, tipping $5, Ko-fi's support. All of those things earn domain pops for the players, such as the resubscriptions for from Chad KVO, Tamiko Ahoy, and Scroll Monty DL. I knew it was Monty DL, but I didn't want to somehow mess it up. So thank you, of course, as always, for those subs. That gets you 3 more domain pops. Domain pops are a way that the players can add +1 to their rolls for every domain pop they spend, or they can spend 5 of them to make themselves or anybody else roll on the D100 mystery grab bag table. It feels like it's been a minute since we've had a roll on the table, but that's okay. There's been times where it feels like there were back-to-back rolls on the table. But you can, of course, encourage them to maybe use the table by donating even more domain pops, by subscribing, resubscribing, all that good stuff. I mean, we also do have down at the bottom here, we've got a new goal for November, 50 subs. I think we are at, I don't think that's reading right. Maybe it is. 18 is the current count. We have a couple things that are coming up. You can check ! schedule to see what the game schedule is and when all of our regular scheduled games are. But we have huzzah! Thank you, Tamiko, for the community subs boosting those domain pops up by a whopping 5. I'm just gonna put you up with 40. So the couple things that I want to mention that are coming up. We don't have firm dates yet. We're working on them, but they are going to be at near the end of this month. And it's looking like it's going to be literally like a Friday, a Sunday, and maybe a following Friday or Saturday. Will be an Aether Nexus trilogy, a sponsored event taking place here. We are proud to present Aether Nexus from Absolute Tabletop, and we will have a trilogy taking place. We've got a great group of players lined up for that. Once we have the dates solidified, we'll be putting announcements in all the usual places and even a couple of unusual places where you can check those out and hopefully come join us. We're also going to be giving away copies of Aether Nexus from the fine folks at AbTab during those games, so please do come check that out. Tomorrow, keep an eye on the social medias, because tomorrow our auction goes live for I think if I remember correctly, we are only keeping the auction alive for 1 week for Legends of Eleanor 3. I just added the 3 in there. It's our third one. We're not officially calling it 3, but Legends of Eleanor, Secret of the Flame. It is the Todd Stashwick's Nerd Circus presents Legends of Eleanor. It is our semi-annual charity D&D celebrity D&D event where we raise money to support the Pablo Foundation in helping to fight childhood cancer. Back in April, in our second event, in just 4.5 hours, we raised over $54,000. That was enough to fund a research grant and more. Todd Stashwick is the dungeon master, taking players through his Theer setting, his prog core setting that he has developed and recently successfully kickstarted. We will be joined around the virtual table by Ed Spaliers, Anson Mount, Celia Rose Gooding, and Gates McFadden. It's an all Star Trek cast. And there are 2 seats going up for auction tomorrow. You can bid on a chance to sit at the virtual table, play in the D&D game with all of those wonderful people, and help us raise money for a great cause. The game itself will be on December 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be at the con running the boards for the production, and the rest of the MTD team, including our amazing, awesome volunteer moderators, will be keeping everybody safe in the chat. So we hope to see you there for that. All right. Last couple things I want to mention real quick before we get started. Of course, we are adults playing as teens and kids in a fictitious setting in a fictitious Michigan town in the fictitious year of 1985. The year actually is not fictitious. That was actually a year. But the things that we're making happen in 1985 are fictitious. But nonetheless, you may hear things like adult language, graphic depictions of violence, intense roleplay situations, topics including but not limited to bullying, divorce, use and abuse of addictive substances, all of those kind of things. If those aren't things that you're interested in, feel free to go somewhere else. We won't be offended. But do know that we have our own, we have our safety tools in place. We have had session zeros, established lines and veils, and we are making sure that everybody is safe around our virtual table. I do want to remind you, and maybe it feels a little more important now than any other time, but it's always important, is to remind you that you matter. The world is a better place with you in it. There are any number of reasons why you might be struggling. It does not matter what that reason is. There is help that is available for you. All you have to do is come into our chat, type !help, and a couple of URLs will pop up. You can check out findahelpline.com, or you can check out the growing list of resources at takethis.org. We encourage you to check out those websites, bookmark them, save them for yourself, save them for a friend. Remember, you matter. With that, I would like to welcome you all to Paradise Academy. The world around you is shattering. Small cracks, chips at first, and then bigger pieces breaking off. You might argue that the place you know as Paradise, Michigan, has never truly been stable. But of late, it has become increasingly, rapidly unstable for all of you. So much so that not even from day to day, but hour to hour, you're not entirely sure what's going to happen. And you're not sure where you're going to be. One moment, you are in the cafeteria having what's become usual lunchtime arguments that involve the use of psychic powers, windows exploding inward, people exerting their will over other people, and just good old-fashioned teenagers fighting. And then suddenly, lunch ends and you're on your way to class, and you find yourself in the Stapler family home, dealing with the aftermath of well over a century of recurring murders, and learning that the Stapler house itself may be a sentient entity, and maybe even more than just the Stapler house. There's something to these nexus points. There's something breathing a life to them, it seems. And no more than this realization begins to filter through all of you, then you find this bizarre scenario of being within Stapler House once again. Begins to slip away like a dream in those moments when you first begin to wake up. And what you thought was real begins to slip away and dissolve. But you haven't fully woken up just yet. You don't have that awareness of the comfort of your bed, the warm sheets pulled up to your chin. You don't have the comforting light of morning. But you know that there is something that you can do, some place that you can go when things get tough. We all have that place in our mind that we retreat to when everything is chaos around us. Sometimes it's a real world place. Sometimes it's a person. It's an anchor. It's a refuge. Jessica, where is your refuge? Or what? Or who?
Honestly, I think Jess thinks back to her sister, um, Kat. She thinks when they got older, they argued quite a bit, but when they were younger, they were very, very close. She can remember they would take family vacations to the beach, and her sister would um, spend time walking down the boardwalk, getting ice cream. And in those days, in that time, her parents weren't fighting, or at least hiding it well from the kids. And during that time is when Jessica felt safe and happy, and like she could really rely on her sister for anything, to tell her anything.
You involuntarily squint your eyes against the bright light. You haven't even opened your eyes yet. And bright sunlight is streaming in through a window somewhere quite suddenly, as you hear the sound of a window blind suddenly being thrown up, and that a little too fast where it was and then you feel the very sudden pressure as somebody jumps on your bed. They don't just sit on your bed, they jump on the bed and are jumping on the bed next to you as you hear your sister going, "Come on! Wake up! The sun has already arisen! The day is before us!" And as you open your eyes, you see Kat standing in her pajamas still, hand out as if she's proclaiming this to the world. We have the whole day ahead of us. And then you just, as you're kind of blinking and getting used to the light, you just see her hands on her hips looking down at you. You are not going to sleep all day again.
You see, in like mock frustration, even though there's a smile on Jessica's face, because Kat has always been the theatrical one, which is saying a lot because Jessica's very dramatic, but Kat has always been very into theater and dramatic entrances, so even though Jessica tries to pull the covers back over her head with like this sound of upset, she has that smile. Fine. I'm up.
There's no time to waste. Don't even think about getting in the shower. We're just going to be swimming half the day anyway. And if we're not swimming, we're going to be riding bikes, or we're going to be walking on the boardwalk, or any number of things that's going to mess your hair up. So you might as well just pull it up, pull it back like I do. And you see as she kind of swirls her head back and forth like this, and you just see this ponytail flopping back and forth. She goes, Mom and Dad left $20 on the counter for us. I didn't ask. And she kind of gets a little quiet as she crouches down next to you. But their bedroom door is still closed. And then she kind of looks down at you and she just glances over and she just goes, ew.
Ew. But then you see Jessica sit up and that's enough to... I'm trying to think of what they would want to get together, like to buy.
That's a good question. Two young teenage girls in the 1980s vacation in a beach town with $20. I mean, that's in 1985. That in today's money, that's like being handed $100. I think, probably.
Yeah. I wonder.
Is it a thing, or is it something that they would want to do that requires money? Like something where you could rent jet skis and go on like a jet ski tour, rent a little mini sailboat or something like that.
Oh yes, okay, I really like that. So yeah, Jessica kind of sits up and that's enough for us to go sailing.
And Kat, as if on cue, reaches down behind her on the bed and she pulls on this. It's just a cheap knockoff one that she picked up a couple days ago, but it looks sort of like a sailor hat. And she throws it on her head and says, I thought you'd never suggest that. And then she reaches back and she grabs one and shoves it on your head too. He goes, come on, let's go. And springs off of the bed. And I think that's where we're going to switch scenes. Billy.
Yes.
Where is your refuge?
So, Billy has gone through several phases of identity since we started, messing around in Paradise. He went from, pretty much the outcast, kind of, nerd deal before he got here, Then he was, the smart kid that, wound up becoming a werewolf and then became somehow popular in the new iteration. But the roots of being a scout, he tends to, still find solace in solitude and serenity out in the woods. So whether it be, whether any of that holds true in this iteration, whether he's got just a spot in a tree that he likes to sit, or if he's built some kind of like small little tree house, it would be something like that where he's the only one that really goes there.
For you, Billy, waking from the dream memory of Stapler House, what you hear is a sudden loud rat-a-tat-tat. It almost sounds like a rapid burst of machine gun fire.
Oh, jeez.
Like right near your head. And it takes
quick,
Go ahead.
quick look in that direction.
You shoot up, bolt up, looking around, and you hear it again. Except this time, now that you've sat up and you've sort of gotten your bearings almost immediately, you're in this tree house that you constructed, and you realize that the woodpecker's back, and the woodpecker has no sense of what is considered early. It just knows. Sure. It just knows what it's looking for, and this seems like a good a place as any. It just so happens that it's literally when it started pecking at the wood was less than a foot away on the other side of this wood from where you were laying your head down. As you as you sit up, you kind of realize what this is. But looking around, what does your treehouse look like?
So it's a small room, but I imagine given Billy's resources, it's probably a little bit more decked out than an average teenager's treehouse would be. I mean, I built a little thing in the backyard when I was a kid, but I didn't have the resources that the Staplers do. So I imagine that there's like a drop down ladder to come out of this place. There's probably some blankets or whatnot, maybe slightly raised to make it claim as a bed, but not a whole lot here. But I would imagine that like my backpack is off to the side, and he probably fell asleep clutching the signal mirror that he's recently begun carrying around with him everywhere. So he kind of like looks in the mirror and is waiting for some kind of signal and checking his appearance just to be on the safe side. If nothing happens, he would then slip that into his bag.
I am having a brain cramp, and apparently I don't have this on my notes. What was your brother's name?
Oh, geez. Was it Nicholas?
Jerry.
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 Because
Thank you, Tamiko.
originally, Billy's brother was going to be played by Dwight, who unfortunately was never able to make it into the game. Billy, as you're sort of looking in you said looking in this mirror and checking your appearance and maybe looking for a signal, you see movement over your shoulder in the mirror as the other occupant of this treehouse sits up, and it is your brother, your older brother, Jerry.
I just kind of sigh, slip the mirror into my bag. What are you doing here?
What do you mean, what am I doing here? What are you doing here?
I tend to come here when I want to think and be alone. I build it for that reason.
Yeah, but it's also a great place when I need to sleep one off and I don't want mom and dad to know.
You really think they care?
Well, I don't know. It's part of the whole rebellious teen thing, right? Gotta play the part. What are you trying to get away from that you need to sleep in the treehouse?
There is more than I care to get into, but there is just too much going on, and I don't always know how to process it, and the family tends to get a little nosy.
He suddenly leans forward and he gets a little uncomfortably close to your face for a moment as he kind of looks at you, and then he reaches up and he grabs your chin and he kind of turns your face sideways. Look at that. And he grabs hold of just the tiniest little bit of peach fuzz and gives it a pull. Somebody's trying to grow a beard.
You know, there would have been a time that I would have found that intimidating. Billy still has the recollections of the previous iteration where Jerry was the typical big brother and kind of did the fun tormenting, but he doesn't know what the relationship is here, and I as Ted don't remember where Jeremy fits into the current family tree.
Jerry,
because I thought it was from somebody else. So
the recollection that what you were basically revealed was that Jerry is not blood related to you.
So, with all of the wolfing out, Billy is, filled out and grown taller and is really nonplussed about, the older brother that's apparently not really a brother, but, he's not gonna diss him. So I just kind of stand there and take it. And I'll just I'll say just that, there would have been a time I would have found that intimidating. Just stop talking.
Okay. Well, got about as much sleep as the dang bird's gonna let us get. So, and he wasn't even in a sleeping bag. He has a a probably what's the word I'm looking for? An army surplus wool blanket that you probably had in there that he had pulled out. It's only like half unfolded that he had kind of covered up with, and he just sits up on his knees in the treehouse, and he takes the blanket and kind of folds it up, and then he slides over to the hatch, flips it up, and he starts to climb down, and he goes, "You can keep checking your appearance in the mirror if you need to, but come on." He wants to talk to you. And he climbs down the ladder.
Now, there's a little bit of a looking away and rolling of the eyes, and I'll begin kind of scurrying down after him. And once I get like 10 feet off the 10 feet from the ground, I just kind of like jump off and land next to him. What does he want to talk about?
Jerry takes a deep breath, looks over at you, and just says, "The future," and starts walking away. And that's where we're going to cut to Coop. Where do you find solace?
So, I need a little clarification, Jake. Are we talking about where does Coop find solace in general, like all of his life, or in Paradise?
Your call. The simplest way to say it is, what's your happy place?
Okay, well, currently right now, during this time in Paradise, Coop's happy place is Maniacs, the pizza joint. It's usually where he goes to hang out with his friends. It always smells good. Luigi gives us free refills.
Coop, you awaken to the smell of fresh baked cinnamon bread. And when you open up your eyes and do that sort of involuntary stretch, you find yourself in a large round bed that the blanket looks like a slice of pizza. And there are several round pillows around this round bed that look like giant pepperonis.
Well, Coop's first thought is, hey, that's kind of neat. And then his second thought is, wait, where the hell am I?
Looking further around, you appear to be in some kind of a studio apartment. The walls are sort of that mottled red brick. You can see on the ceiling that there is some of the ductwork, but you also see the age of this building. You can see there's stamped metal tiles across the ceiling. Looking around, you see that this studio apartment is decorated how you imagine 11-year-old Coop would imagine a bachelor pad to look. I gotta believe there's not one or two, but probably 3 or 4 arcade games that are in there. In fact, nearest the bed is not just a similar one, but the exact sit-down Pac-Man game from
Sunken Galley.
the Sunken Galley. The counter over by the kitchen area is filled with just every breakfast cereal you could imagine, all lined up. And for some reason, there is a orange crushed velvet couch and red shag carpeting in this place, because that's where my mind went. You hear a door open over in one corner. There's some stairs that lead downward, and you hear a door open, and you hear Luigi's voice call up. I'm trying a new recipe if you want to come try it out.
I live in a shag pad with Luigi. That's a choice.
Listen,
All right.
I would
All right.
not call it a shag pad as
Okay,
for
but,
11-year-old Coop, but
So Coop's going to waddle down the stairs and see what Luigi's whipped up.
you
It smells great.
you walk into or walk down the stairs, and you basically, this door opens into Maniacs. And as soon as you step into the room, there's an explosion of noise and cheers and dozens upon dozens of people yelling "Surprise!" and streamers and poppers and those little spinny things and those little whistle. I don't even know what you call them. Whoopee whistles or whatever they were called. That's not what they were called. I don't know why I just made that word. Whoopee whistle. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I do, actually.
The
Things that go.
Yeah, not kazoos. They're a little round thing, and when you blow into it, it's kind of like a. It sounds like a turbine revving up kind of thing. I've seen some people use them to mimic the sounds of like robot movements and stuff. Anyway, all of your friends are here, and many more people that you know from your life are here for a surprise birthday party for you at Maniac's Pizza.
Wow! Holy cow! Everyone's here.
Who all would you see there?
Well, right up front, I see my little friend Oak. They shoved him towards the front because he's small, so he has to.
I have to be the face of the crowd for sure.
And oh, look, I see Jessica and Billy, and I think Rosie and Laz are off in a booth, like way in the back corner by the jukebox, and they're smooching.
Are there any parents or adults here?
I think my mom would probably be there. Probably also boyfriend Jake. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anyone from Paradise. The cool biology teacher.
Mr. Bunsen?
No, not
Oh.
Mr. Bunsen.
Not Mr.
Not
Bunsen.
Bunsen. The other guy. Hold on. NPCs, teachers.
McHenry.
Yeah. He's cool. He was nice to me.
Okay. So yeah, everybody is sort of smiling and laughing and people are kind of grabbing your shoulders, not aggressively, but like clapping your shoulders, and Jake the boyfriend, Mr. McHenry, they grab your hand and shake it vigorously. Oak shows you to a table and says, "You're not going to believe this, Coop." And there is a table that is piled high with wrapped presents.
What?
And as he brings you over there, Luigi comes out from the back, and he's got this huge, almost impossibly large tray, and he begins moving through the room around people and placing platters on tables. But he says, "Nobody touches. Coop gets the first taste." As the last platter, he sets down in front of you and Oak, and it's cinnamon sticks with that are just absolutely drizzled in the
That Cinnabon icing?
yeah, the icing stuff. Like this is I don't know when pizza places started doing cinnamon breadsticks and stuff like that, but this has got to be a novelty for you guys in this year.
Because it never tiny child brains that pizza crust is also a cinnamon roll if you do it right, you know. But yeah, like, what is it? Coop has anime eyes. There's an enormous stack of presents, which is basically kid crack already. Yeah. and then now we've got these cinnamon sticks, which he's been smelling this whole time. And Coop's going to be like, Can I try one now, Luigi?
Yes, do.
Excellent.
Let me know what you think. Be honest.
Okay. You get one too, Oak. And Coop's gonna reach down, grab a cinnamon stick.
Okay.
Cheers! Bang the stick.
Bang the
sticks, and then he's gonna take a bite. He's got like icy all up on one lip, because that's how that goes. And is it magnificent, Jake?
Oh yeah, they're as glorious as you can imagine. Piping hot, but not so hot they burn you. Absolutely delicious. As soon as you give your approval, everybody else begins digging in, and it's that sort of almost frantic, unfocused, controlled chaos of a children's birthday party. There's an obvious, and you're aware of this, like a time wipe, like a clock wipe, and platters are empty. Cups of half-drink soda are all over the place, and there is a massive pile of wrapping paper where the presents were, and all kinds of gadgets and cool toys, but sort of all of the presents are stacked around the perimeter of something, as Jake the boyfriend stands up and kind of wipes his brow and goes, "Well, got it all put together." And he presses a button, or leans down, not presses a button, he leans down and plugs in a small controller and reaches down and slides a lever over as he steps out of the way, and you see a small HO train set has been set up. And in amidst all of where the train is set up, and it's just like an oval track with a couple spurs on it, but it's got like the train engine in the coal car, and then there's some passenger cars, a couple other things. But you can see that there's a couple of new G.I. Joe figures. There's the Grimlock Transformer that you got. And sitting on top of the train, riding it around in circles, is a small stuffed white rat.
This all seems quite comforting and familiar. So yeah, are the controls the same as Jude said also?
Yeah. Less complicated, but pretty similar. There's a throttle control, and Jake, the boyfriend, shows you a couple here. If you press this switch, you can switch the track off to this spur, and there's a little, off in one corner, there's a little plastic tunnel that's just like that sort of molded plastic that sits over the track that the train will, as it goes around, it disappears briefly.
This is really cool. Thanks.
He kind of reaches down and ruffles your hair.
Yeah. Isn't it cool, Oak? And Coop kind of gives Oak an additional kind of head tilt look, like, do you recognize this?
Yeah, I think there is a moment of, I think you see that there is that moment of recognition, and like, I think that in and of itself is comforting to Coop in the moment of being like, yeah, I remember like experiencing this. But then there's also like just this overall joy of being able to see it and not be in the chaos of it all, right? Like have it just be a toy instead of an experience. And that, I think, you watch Oak start to like really engage with you and like start playing with the toys and be in that moment with you.
And then as you're getting just that deep sigh satisfaction of all of the chaos of everything being behind you, as the train whizzes by, you hear "Coo." As the train whizzes by again, you hear "Ooh."
What is happening? Here, Oak, you drive for a second.
Okay. I'll
Slow
take
it
the
down.
controls.
I need to look in the cars.
And then I'll turn the dial slightly lower so that the speed of the train goes a couple seconds behind.
This time, as the train comes by, it's moving much slower, so as it approaches, you see a tiny hand and arm lean out of the from the engine where the engineer would be, and you see the sort of light blue shirt, and then you can see the denim classic striped engineer bib overalls and the engineer hat, as a tiny bearded man leans out. "Hey, Coop! It's Jake the engineer!"
I saw it coming, but still. Coop's looking around. Is anyone else seeing this?
Nobody is showing any signs that, not even Oak are showing any signs that they can see what you're seeing.
Hi, Jake the engineer. What are you? Where did you come from?
I need you to hop aboard.
I'm a little too big for that, Jake.
Here. And he holds his hand out as the engine approaches, like he's trying to give you a tiny high five.
I tiny high five him.
And as you make contact with his hand, you are standing next to him behind the controls of the train. As he looks down at you, he reaches back, grabs an engineer hat, throws it on your head, and says, "See that lever right there? Push it all the way forward."
Okay.
And then as you do, he grabs hold of this chain up above, and you hear the mighty train whistle. And the train disappears into the blackness of the train tunnel. And that's where we're going to switch over to Oak. To Oak's place of solace. Oak's refuge. Where might that be?
You know, I thought about this today. And while it could have been a number of things, I think, yeah, I think we see Oak downstairs in essentially like a game room. There's a 4x4 table with some form of a tablecloth, and numerous snacks and drinks abound. And you see that Oak is sitting on one side of this table, but he is not the one sitting behind the dungeon master's like cover. Instead, it is his sister that is currently guiding them through, I think, one of Oak's first encounters with D&D, and like experiencing that for the first time. There is an immediate relief and joy that comes over him realizing that he is in this space, in this seat. You can see from where they are, he sees that they're not in paradise, but for a moment he thinks he is, because he can see out the back slider door. There is a beach out there. There's beach sand, and he can see it, so he thinks, oh, well, then the lighthouse is out that way. Clearly we're there. But then he recognizes another like lighthouse, or another sort of icon that is not from paradise, and he realizes, oh no, I'm back in my home, back in North Carolina. And then there's even more peace that comes over him with that. But then it is immediately brought into this beautiful and wonderful chaos that is playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I imagine there are a number of different minis on the table, and there is some form of a monster that is just sitting in the middle of this table as Bree begins to arc over like what is currently happening in the encounter.
I think that Bree doesn't like very quickly learned that she didn't like the pre-published modules as much. And what you see on the table is actually, you see a Hero Quest game board and some of the Hero Quest figures that come with it and some of the furniture. But there's also a couple of the cardboard standee children miniature tokens from Candyland. There's the molded plastic bright green, blue, yellow, and red Uncle Wiggly game pieces. Please tell me somebody remembers Uncle Wiggly. And it's not just me. I don't know what the origin of it was, but I know that on the game board, one of the things you had to get past was the Jabberwocky. And I think there's a plastic toy from the Five and Dime store that is standing in as, and I think that's absolutely what the monster that you have to fight is the Jabberwocky. And this is, if this were a movie, it's not what's being said around the table that's important. So we're not hearing the dialogue. We're seeing the animated descriptions. Imagine a camera moving slowly around 360 as we see Bree animatedly describing all of these scenes and picking up things. And we see dice being rolled. And we see... who else is at the table with you besides you and your sister?
So I imagine in his space of solace, there's this moment where he looks over and Bree is at the head of the table, and then Holly is here. Holly is sitting next to him, and then Coop is like directly across from Oak, and Rosie and Laz and Jessica and Billy are all like, it is a full table. It is a full table, and Bree is conducting this in a way that he's always wanted to conduct a game. He's always wanted to have a full table experience, but never really had an opportunity because it's just been him and his sisters creating these worlds, creating these characters for so long. So it's a nice kind of reprieve to see so many people that he has now become to love and cherish, taking in something that he has been taught for so long. And there's this wonderful moment, like montages of the critical fails and the critical hit, like just the absolute crits, just everything. And I love all of it. But I think that there is a moment where the camera pauses and the cacophony of action that is happening at the table pauses, and Oak is the only one moving, because Oak stops time in this moment to just enjoy this space. He looks around, smiling. He's like, this, no, this can't be real. But he feels like it's real. He feels so heavily that it is real that he doesn't want to take that feeling away from himself. So even though in the back of his mind he's understanding that this can't be a possibility, the joy takes over, and then the action continues.
Before the action continues, and we absolutely... we see those moments of triumph and defeat, and we see people standing up and kind of animate, just eagerly pointing at something as somebody else is rolling a die, and people, a couple people are cheering and somebody else is, oh man. And then when you freeze time, and it's not like, just 80s time, static freezes. There's this moment of as everything comes to a standstill, and you're having this realization of that you described, that this moment can't possibly have existed, and you say this can't be real, and you hear your sister's voice, Bree, and she goes, but it is. And you realize Bree's not frozen.
But how? It doesn't make any sense. I love it, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't make any sense.
What about any of this makes sense? She points at the Candyland figures and the Uncle Wiggily next to the dime store stand-in monster. There's a couple of Matchbox cars on the table, which one of them just happens to be a black Trans Am.
He ruffles his hair. He's like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, none of it makes sense, and yeah, it's fun, and that's what's great about it. But Bree, I
I just saw my friends. All of them. And he kind of looks over the table. All of them. Gone. And I didn't know what to do about it. And I just stood there. I could have done something about it, and I didn't.
What would you have done? You could do it again. If we rewound things, retconned it, what would you do different?
I don't know. I'd save them all. At least try to. But instead, I was just this tiny little guy who starts to like feel. You see the shoulders slump of just exhaustion and sadness and like disappointment in himself. I was just this tiny little guy who I want to save everybody. I always want to save everyone. But I don't know, I feel like every time I come to the table, all I'm rolling is ones. And it's nothing but failures. Across the board. This place I visited during the summer, it's supposed to be called Paradise, right? Well, why does it always feel like hell? This is paradise. This is what I love. This is what I want to be around. It's all I ever wanted to be around.
You know why I like being a dungeon master?
Why? He kind of looks at you like, I think I know why, but please enlighten me the 17,000th time for why you enjoy being a dungeon master.
Well, I think the proper answer is I like telling stories. I like sharing stories with my friends, and I like creating obstacles and seeing how everybody can overcome them. But the real answer, I just like making you do stupid shit. I like making you jump through hoops. I like making you figure out why in Greyhawk there's a 1975 Trans Am, or why Optimus Prime showed up in Castle Ravenloft.
That made no sense, by the way.
I know it didn't.
Optimus Prime should not have been the one to take out Strahd, okay? That did not make any sense whatsoever. But I loved it. I loved every moment of it.
The point is, I like doing these stories and not doing those written adventures, because I like making things happen outside of the rules. And
yeah, but
there's things, and she kind of points at the DM screen.
Yeah.
You know, I keep this up because it's got all these cool tables and charts and everything. I can never remember Thaco without these charts. But the other thing is, behind this screen, you can't see what I'm rolling. And when I'm rolling and deciding whether or not this monster is going to kill y'all, and she reaches over and she pushes the screen over and it falls flat on the table, and you see that the last set of dice that she rolled for the monster versus your party was critical. Like, this would have been a TPK, but that's not what she had revealed to you. When I'm the dungeon master, I can make things happen sometimes the way I want them to happen. Not like to cheat or whatever, but I can see how much fun you guys are having. I see the joy in your face. I think in this moment, it would be better if you didn't all get eaten up. Instead, you find the Vorpal blade that you need to defeat the Jabberwock. Now, it's going to be some time, buddy, before you're as great a dungeon master as I.
Yeah, well, you're a great dungeon master, and then he like looks at this wall, which I imagine is like in the basement, and there's like the big leather couches and stuff that, you know, like that are, but behind there's a curio cabinet that their dad has made, and it's probably got pieces of Oak's artwork, things like that, things that Oak's very proud of too, but like he's his young stuff. Meanwhile, Bree has all of these championships, all of these trophies that she's won. He's like,
Just once in my life, Bree. Like, I want to have that. I want to have what you have. Like, that level of full success. Awesome victory. Like, that is what I want. And I don't know, man.
But you have something far greater than that.
Yeah.
And
Explain
she
that.
reaches down and she picks up her half-drink can of Mountain Dew. Actually, it'd probably be a glass bottle of Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
As she picks it up and she tips it over, and the liquid starts to pour out. But as it exits the bottle, it goes and stops. And she actually lets go of the bottle, and it's held there in place. You can control time.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like it's gotten me very far, has it?
Because you're not using your abilities to your full potential. And she kind of, as she says this, there's an almost a little bit of desperation in her voice. And you notice as she says that, you kind of glance behind her to the window where looked out the window and you could see a little bit of the beach.
Mhm.
You realize some of that beach sand is coming in through the windows and is across the basement floor. It has this look of, as you look around, like the paint on the wall looks a little cracked and peeling. The paint on the miniatures on the tables chipped, worn. The paper of the board games is wrinkled from moisture and faded. You have a lot more control than you realize. You said you couldn't save your friends, but you have the power to do so. And you see behind her is the lighthouse out in the back, out on the beach. You see the light flashes by the window. And that's where we're going to cut to another scene. Jessica, you and Kat are out on the water. Where are we, by the way? We haven't specified what this body of water is. Where do you call home? Where did you call home?
I mean, I think originally they were in California, I want to say. So
Jessica was originally from California.
yeah. So a beach there, I would think. Nice warm
Okay.
sands.
So you are you and your sister are somewhere where you can go out on this small sailing boat. You're not terribly far away from anything. I don't know enough about California to know what would be considered like I guess I'm maybe like Santa Barbara or something. There's a marina and you're able to go out on the boats. You're out far enough away that you can see the shoreline, of course, and you can see the marina. And there's enough of a wind out here that the two of you are able to sail casually along the coastline a little bit. And for a little while, it's just the two of you with your hair pulled back and sort of blowing back in the breeze, and it's a very small boat designed for these short excursions. So there's not a whole lot that you have to do. A single sail and kind of moving, working the rudder and moving the sail around to steer or to catch the wind a little bit. But after wrestling around for a little bit, you get it where you're tacking perfectly along the shoreline, and Kat kind of sits back, just leans back with her hand on the rudder, and you realize she's kind of just looking at you. Like, as you're working the sail, you kind of maybe glance back at her, and then you realize as you look back again that she's just kind of leaning back, and she's just kind of head tilted slightly to the side, just watching you.
She looks at Kat. What's wrong?
I was going to ask you the same thing.
What?
I was going to ask you what's wrong. Why today? We only went sailing this one time. And I know it was one of the best days. It was one of the few times that you and I got to just do something, just the two of us. I know it was the last time the two of us did anything like this. So why today? Why are we here?
You see, like, Jessica kind of look quickly down as if just like kind of remembering now everything coming back to her, something that she had kind of hoped that she could forget just a little bit longer. You're right. This was the first time, well, this was the last real time that we got to spend like a whole day together and everything was good. And this was before everything happened with Mom and Dad and the fighting started and the arguing and then you left. You left me with that mess. And she looks down, kind of fiddling with a piece of the rope from the boat. I guess I wanted my sister back for a little bit.
I couldn't stay.
I know. I'm not mad at you. I would have left too.
What do you mean you're not mad at me? What? If anything, I should be mad at you.
Me?
You don't remember. This was the last time that we ever did anything like this, because after today, after Mom found out about Becky, it was never just you and I anymore, was it? It was you, me, her.
You see, like, Jessica's hand, like, grip white knuckled against the rope. Yeah.
I tried to pretend like it didn't bother me. For a while, I tried to pretend like it was just how you were coping. At first, I thought you were just talking to yourself, trying to find some kind of peace in all the craziness that Mom and Dad were putting us through, but no, it just got to a point where you were telling her things that you used to tell me. You stopped sharing stuff with me. I figured, well, you figured out a way to cope. So I guess I figured you'd probably be okay when I left.
Well, yeah, let's just say that didn't work out. She isn't you, Kat. She really wasn't there for me. She was there for her. And now I'm left with just hurt.
And so you're here.
The last time, like you said, before she came.
You know this is only temporary, right?
Jessica nods. I figured. Nothing this good or peaceful can ever stay like this. Not anymore.
I wish I could pretend I didn't know what was going on. I wish I could be that untainted source of comfort on the outside of what you're experiencing, but I'm a subconscious projection of a happy memory. I know what you know.
Well, if you know what I know, you also maybe would know how to forget like I do, and just... She looks back out. Just continue to forget just a little while longer.
She looks out to sea. We can try to forget. At least until we get where we're going. And she turns and looks in the direction the boat is heading. And you see that far along the coastline, you can see the darkened sky of storm clouds. And standing stark against that, you see the white spire that is the Candle Point Lighthouse. And you see that light as it passes by. We switch to Billy again. Billy, you are trekking through the woods. Ahead of you, by about 10 feet, is Jerry. He seems to be leading you somewhere, but he hasn't said where.
I'm fairly, if this is where I built the treehouse, I would know these woods like the back of my hand. So I would have an idea of, what direction we're heading and what could possibly be out that way.
This is a part of the woods that, well, simultaneously is very familiar to you. If you look into the distance, like beyond those trees that are within, say 20, 30 feet of you, if you try to look on beyond them, you find it difficult to focus and get your bearings. Yet you recognize where you are.
So I'll just catch up to him, and walk by his side or like a half step behind. Is like, where are we going?
He wants to talk to you, and he wants me to take you to him, but the funny thing is, this is all in your subconscious. Where we are now. This is just avoidance tactics. We could already be there if you wanted to be, so for some reason we're not there. Which means you want to talk. You want answers to questions, or you want to tell me something. What is it?
No matter what I seem to do, everything seems to fail. Those around me, those that I call friends, that I call family, people that should have my back, don't. So, all right, you're my subconscious, but there's a layer of distrust here. Are you leading me to some kind of trap? Are you looking to take away from me something that I care about? Because that's what seems to keep happening.
What are you afraid of?
I'm not sure. Every time I turn around, it's another thing. The trials that were set before our family, before I came out to Paradise, and I thought those were a struggle, and they were nothing in comparison to what I faced once I got here. And I thought that I had moved past our family troubles by finding a family of my own. And as I built what I thought were deep and rich friendships, it all fell apart like a house of cards. And I witnessed my own death. And it didn't seem as if anyone truly cared.
Jerry stops walking. He turns to face you. And he walks up to you. He's got this look of concern on his face as he steps forward and he places his hands on your shoulders. Oh, boo hoo hoo. I'm dead and I'm a ghost and my friends didn't mourn me. Oh, boo hoo. I'm a werewolf. Oh, boo hoo. The world isn't treating me the way I wanted to treat me. All I've heard you do is whine about yourself and about where you are and why you're there, and nobody cares about you, but I haven't heard you say anything about what you want to do to make things better. You said you didn't trust me. You're worried that I'm leading you somewhere. I want to take something from you. I'm you. I'm your subconscious. All of this, it's your brain. Why can't you trust yourself?
Why can't I trust myself? Because I'm at war with myself. There's a side of me that, for the most part, is under control, but I'm an animal, and when I'm full of this anger at people that I should care about, if I don't keep it in check, what's going to happen? If I need to do something, sure, I can attack those that I care about, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to be upset no matter the outcome. Either I don't succeed and I'm a failure, or I do succeed and I'm out the friends that I, on some level, still care about. It's a lose-lose situation. So I try and plan, think about how I can take the next step forward. Try and see if I can find her. Because none of them want to.
That's the first honest thing you've said. That's the first time you've even given an indication of wanting to move forward like you say you do. So much of what you complain about, Billy, is about what you might do. Oh no, I might get angry at my friends. Oh no, I might yell at them. Oh no, I might literally bite their heads off. Yeah, you're a wolf. That makes you a slightly more dangerous teenager. Otherwise, what you're feeling is called angst. And instead of just worrying about, oh no, what might I do? Think about what you can do to move forward. Think about what you can do to find her. Think about what you can do to protect those you care about. You have a lot of... You keep letting the world happen to you, Billy. You're a werewolf. You should be happening to the world around you, not the other way around.
I am more than a werewolf. I am also a mind, a plotter, a planner, and there are plans in motion. And while I don't like the fact of having to rely on other people, there are those that are on my side that are setting things in motion to move everything in the direction that I want. So if you're me, you know these things.
I know them. But I think you needed to hear some of that. And I think you maybe just need to understand where you're coming from and where you're going.
Gonna wait to get a little bit more information, and eventually I will have my revenge. I will find out how to get her out of the mirror.
Well then, it sounds like you're ready.
Well, I guess we're there then, aren't we?
And as you say that, he steps away from in front of you and motions forward, and out from behind a tree 10 feet away from you steps Algernon. Coop, you are on a tiny train on a tiny track, and you are cruising around with Jake the engineer. What does the landscape look like as you look out and you are no longer in Maine, but you seem to be traveling along in a real train somewhere?
My guess is that, what is it? If it seems like I'm in a real train traveling, I'm guessing that it would be a track that's laid down like along the coast. So, what is it? So like along the coast by back home in the Pacific Northwest. It would be a train track that runs along, alongside like Elliott Bay. And it would cut down, it would eventually cut down after you get past the Puget Sound. It would then go out to the actual coast. But we're just cruising along the bay right now.
I thought I could wait, but you just described very large bodies of water. So we're going to take a really short break because unlike you guys, I can't duck away. So we're going to take a very short break so I can take a bio break, and then we will get back to Coop's Big Train Adventure. It's been a long time since I've taken a break on this stream, so give me a second here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in probably about 5 minutes or less. There's the sound of the metronomic is the word I'm looking for. The metronomic sound of the train on the train tracks, that steady and punctuated briefly by the occasional blowing of the whistle as the sound picks up in intensity as the train crosses a large expanse of valley on a high suspension bridge before moving once again across the landscape of the Pacific Northwest. Turning at a certain point, turning eastward, traveling what seems to be by the landscape somewhere along the northern border of the United States. You seem almost to be crossing distances of that should take days in just moments, though the train doesn't seem to be moving at any exceptional speed.
I imagine it's just like a montage of clips, like outside the window, we're passing by some little fields, and then the next clip we're passing by like some flat marshlands or something, and then we're passing through the woods. So
Yeah, every once in a while you see the landscape where we see like a couple of deer emerging from the woods next to the train tracks, and then suddenly their heads lift up and they turn and dart back into the woods, and then there's just as the train comes cruising by.
Coop turns to Jake the engineer. I had to do that just for Carrie. And says,
Where are we going?
He looks down and says, "You had as much time as you could have away from everything that's going on. This train only has one stop, and I think you know where that is."
Aw, beans.
We've still got a little bit of time before we get there. I'm by no means an expert, and I've been away for quite some time. But we can kill some time if you want to ask me some questions.
Okay, sure. Have you ever met Jake Prime?
We all know Jake the Original. Some of us, in the early days, we got to spend quite a bit of time with him. But then, once they got a hold of him for a long period of time, we didn't get to see him but for a few moments. After our genesis, call it. It's been a long time since I've seen him.
Yeah. When was... How long ago did all this start?
Do I know? Did we cover that?
I remember.
I don't remember either.
But Jake the Engineer's answer is, time is kind of a wibbly wobbly, timely wimey situation. Time doesn't work the way it ought to in Paradise.
Well, I know that that's true sometimes. My friend Oak controls time.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard you had a fellow amongst you that could manipulate time, and that could be a really good thing for you and your friends. And also be very bad.
Do you know a lot about Paradise, Jake?
They say that when each one of us is created, we maintain a connection to Jake the Original. What Jake knows, all the Jakes know. So in that sense, I guess, yeah, I do.
So anything that Jake Prime or Jake the Original knows, you know?
Should be.
Does he know where he is inside that lab?
He thinks for a minute, strokes his beard, takes off his glasses, like he's killing time as he's trying to think about it. He says, "As you know, I don't think he does. But I don't think it's... I don't know why I know this, but I don't think it's so much that he doesn't know where he is, as it is, I don't think he's decided yet where he is. That makes sense."
Like he can move himself around? I thought he was being held prisoner.
Are you with me on this train by choice?
Well, I kind of figured something like that might happen when I gave you the tiny high five.
Yeah, and I found you having a birthday party in a pizza place that's in Paradise. And yet, as we left on our trip, we were circumnavigating Seattle and surrounding areas.
Yeah,
Almost like you
Well-
hadn't yet decided where you were. Let me ask you something, Coop, if I may.
sure, go ahead.
What do you want from all this? What's your goal? What is it you're trying to do?
I'm a very simple man, Jake the engineer. Right now, I'm just trying to survive.
You seem to be doing a pretty good job of adapting and overcoming. And he kind of motions down to your Nintendo Power Glove hand.
What, this? This was pure luck, man. Found it in a sinkhole.
Sinkhole? Oh, you mean the sinkhole?
Yeah, there was a lot of crap down there. Some of it was good, some of it was trash.
Well,
But it looks like people have been throwing stuff down there for ages.
why? Well, speaking of things that have been down there for ages, something tells me you ran into Jake the Miner.
I met Jake the Miner, yeah. He was really cool. He gave me Oreos.
Oreos. He loves Oreos.
Well, they're the superior cookie.
Indeed they are. And I'm assuming he's the one that told you all about Jake the Original.
It's true, yeah.
And that's why you're asking about where Jake the Original might be located.
Yeah, I need to find him.
Why do you want to find Jake the Original? Is this your quest? Or is this somebody else's quest that you've taken up?
I just heard that he was trapped in the lab, and I don't think anybody should be trapped in the lab. That place sucks.
Yeah, I've heard that. Well, I think it's an honorable quest. Nobody's really put much thought into the Jakes or why they might be in this predicament except you. Can I offer you a little piece of advice? While you and your friends are mucking about in Paradise.
I would love advice about Paradise.
Paradise is a place that takes a lot. It asks a lot, takes a lot. But it can't take from you without giving you something in return. As I understand it, Paradise has given each one of you something you didn't have before you came to Paradise.
Yeah, me and my friends all have like superpowers.
You ever heard the phrase fight fire with fire?
Uh-huh. Which always seemed really weird to me, because if two people are throwing fire at the same thing, it's just a lot of fire.
Yeah, listen, it's one of those things that you hear so much and you just agree with it, but if you give it any little bit of thought, it kind of doesn't make sense. But my point is, Paradise is giving you these abilities. You should be using your abilities as much as you can against Paradise. Every time it tries to exert its will on you, every time it tries to force you to go where you don't want to go and do what you don't want to do, use what it gave you against it. And I don't know what kind of abilities you got, Coop. Other than that,
My ability is pretty lame, sir.
oh, it can't be that bad.
All I can do is talk to people with my mind sometimes. Not all the time. And if they're not even close to me, it makes my head hurt.
All you can do is talk to people with your mind. I can't talk to people with my mind. I have to use my mouth.
Yeah, but like Rosie's literally unbreakable. Like she can't be cut, or she got hit by a whole ass truck and was totally fine. And Billy can turn into a werewolf. Like he just thinks about it and he goes like, bah, schnick, schnick, schnick. And my friend Oak literally can control time. And and Laz apparently is like some electric guy or something. I don't know. He zapped a vampire and killed him.
His only response to that is to just get his eyes get wide, and he just goes, a vampire. That's amazing. If you can talk to people with your mind, is that all you do? Talk to them?
Yeah. What else can I do?
Well, I'm just a humble clone of a middle-aged man sitting somewhere in the middle of Paradise, whose job is to drive this train. It seems to me that if you have a connection to somebody's mind, to speak to them, it's kind of like opening the door to somebody's house. Right now, you're just knocking on the door and saying, hey, is anybody there? And having a conversation with them through a crack in the door. All you need to do is get your foot in that door and push it open. It seems like you might be able to get in there and, well, see what you can do.
What, like rob them?
And he's saying,
I don't want to mug anyone, Jake the engineer.
I'm sure you've had people that have been doing things to you and your friends that you didn't want them to do. You mentioned your friend Rosie getting hit by a truck. Well, seems to me if you can talk to people with your mind, you could maybe get into the mind of the driver of that truck and stop him. Tell him to stop, at least. And I think you got more than just that. Now, I like driving trains, but I don't drive train all the time. When I'm not driving trains, I like to sit down and I like to play some Super Mario Brothers.
I like to play Super Mario Brothers.
Some Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Contra.
I'm not very good at Contra.
But Contra gave us the Konami code.
The code. That's the only way I can play that game.
But if you're playing any of those games, you got to learn the way the characters move and where the things are and the certain combos, and you gotta learn what buttons do what. Just like I'm saying with your mind and learning how that works, you've got a literal Nintendo controller for a hand.
Yeah, but I don't really know how it works. I just smash buttons most of the time and hope something happens.
Well, sometimes that's what you got to do. Smash buttons and hope for the best. When you get a chance, mash some buttons, point it at things, see what it does. Well, I don't know how helpful any of this advice is, but just think about it. And for the most part, if you see a Jake, it's generally safe to assume that they're one of the good guys. But there's a couple of bad Jakes out there.
Yeah, like Jake the Bounty Hunter.
Oh yeah, he's a dick.
He is such a dick.
Well, you keep your eye
I
out
haven't
for
run
them.
into the worst one yet, Jake the Landlord. I'm kidding.
You keep an eye out for them, and you keep an eye out on your friends, and you keep practicing. I have a feeling there's more to you than meets the eye.
That's from Transformers.
I was gonna say, under his breath, you just hear him go, "Transformers, robots in disguise." But as he says this, he reaches up and he kind of blows the horn, and then he works a couple of the levers, and you realize the train is slowing down. And you see that the train is pulling into the stop, which is alongside the space between downtown Paradise and Paradise Beach. A place where, you know, in the real world there is no train track or train station. But you can see that you are brought to the stop, and just on the other side is the lighthouse. Well, this is the end of the line for you, my friend. Like just the train track. I don't mean like you're dying or anything.
Oh, thank God.
But you do got to get off.
All right. It was nice to meet you, Jake the Engineer.
You too, Coop. And if you see Jake the Miner again, tell him he still owes me $20.
I will.
He doesn't. I just want to see what he'll do when he thinks he does. As you disembark from the train, he blows the horn again, and he does kind of a Santa Claus finger on the side of the nose and gives you a wink, pulls a lever, and straight up Back to the Future 3's the train. It starts to hover up off the track, and the things flip up, and he just disappears off over Lake Michigan.
Aw, man, I wish it did that when I was in there.
We're gonna flip back over to Oak, standing in the basement with your sister Bree. Sand is spilling in across through many of the windows and doors, and on the lake side, the lake facing side of the, or rather the ocean facing side of the house, the tide is coming in, and water is beginning to with the motion of the waves beginning to lap into the basement. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Oak?
I think Oak hears the lapping of the water and sees that the sand and the tide is basically coming in. And how do you turn a tide when things need a change? And so I think he starts to look around. And Jake, I think in the moment, I think this place, this basement, is actually decorated for Christmas, because I imagine like the white string lights are all decked out across the basement like ceiling, and then like along some of the entertainment space areas, there's like little nutcrackers and snow Santa Clauses, and then like the camera kind of like, he looks around the room and then he pans over to a couple of things. He goes, okay, time is on my side, so I've got time to make up my choices that I'm going to make, right? And if it's my brain, then I get to choose how I use it. Okay, and he starts to make moves. But he's talking to Bree, and I imagine Bree's the only one moving in this space with him. He goes, okay, so Algernon is coming after us, and the Nexus is coming after us. How do we take on both at the same time? And I imagine that water is flooding into the space at this while he's speaking, and he's probably like having to play like the floor is lava with the furniture to get over to where he wants to get.
There's a plastic Santa Claus kind of floating along on its side,
bobbing through the middle of the living room there. And then he'll get over to one of the curio cabinets, and he's gonna grab a Rat King Nutcracker statue, right? And then bring it back over to the D&D table. And he's going to slam it down in the center of the D&D table with the Jabberwocky and the Rat King. The Jabberwocky representing the Nexus, the Rat King representing Algernon. And then he's going to very quickly like look around the room for other things. He watches as the tide is continually flooding into the space, and he's looking at all of his friends in the room. What should I do? How would I solve this? And he starts placing the tokens down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He grabs like a werewolf little mini, moves it in place, takes Billy's token off the deck, puts the werewolf token in place. There's 2 tokens representing Jessica and Anne that look identical. There's numerous things here. And then all of a sudden, you watch as he makes a drastic move over to Laz, and as he's moving to Laz, near the basement door, there is an amp and Laz's guitar. Somehow he manifested in his brain that Laz brought his guitar to session. And Bree, you said anything goes in my, like, learn how to use my powers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I've got time to think about it, I've got time to solve it. So he grabs the guitar. I don't know how to play in real life. I was gonna ask Laz to teach me at some point. I don't know how to play that. But you watch as he takes the amp, and I imagine the amp has water on it for a moment, but as he places it on one of the empty chairs at the table, and it becomes dry. It just becomes dry. The water isn't on it, but there's clearly water still filling the space. And then he goes over to Laz. He's like, oh, one more thing. And then he reaches into Laz's, I imagine, like this old blackened denim cut off sleeves jacket that Laz would have, right? And inside one of the pockets is a guitar pick. And on it, it says Lazarus, because it's one of his mom's tour band guitar picks. And then he's like, I'm just gonna borrow this from you, buddy, I promise. Just a moment. And he sits down at the dungeon master space and he looks at Bree. Anything goes, right? So we change the narrative. Algernon wants to play a game. Well, let's have him play a game. And he'll start playing the song I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany, but it's an acoustic version on this like amped up guitar. And as he's saying that, I imagine that the water level begins to dissipate in the space. But so do the lights. So the water is dissipating, but the lights around are shutting off. Slowly and slowly. I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. And as he hits that chord, I think the only two people left in the visible space, the board game table is there. All the pieces are in place. The only people left are him and Bree as he hits that final chord. And he looks to her. We're changing the narrative. And I think that's where I'll leave it for you to continue that at that point if you want.
And I think as you say that, Bree now is holding a guitar. And she smiles at you as you play the last notes of I Think We're Alone Now. And she starts playing a new song. And we see the only thing lit up is the game table with the Jabberwocky and the Rat King. And the two of you standing next to each other as the camera pans back. And the song that we hear is Time After Time, Cyndi Lauper. And we still hear those notes of time after time. And You swear, Jessica, somewhere on the wind you hear Cyndi Lauper playing as you and Kat sail your boat, and it gets closer to the shore, and the wind carries it up onto the sandy beach of Paradise Beach. The storm clouds are approaching. The lighthouse light is on and is spinning around. And as the boat kind of runs aground, Kat looks up at you and says, "The only reason I left you, Jessica, is because I knew you'd be okay. I wasn't going to survive. I didn't have a coping mechanism. I had nothing. I knew you'd be okay. I believed you'd be okay. I'm sorry if you weren't. I'm sorry you've had to deal with everything that you've had to deal with. And I'm sorry I can't help you with what you still have to face."
Jessica stands from the boat and she looks to Kat. I know. And we all needed to do what we needed to do to survive. I would have never have forgiven myself if you had stayed for me. And she gives Kat a hug. I really liked our day of sailing. Even if you are a shit steersman, or shit at steering, she says.
Before she pulls away from the hug, you feel her hand press down on top of your head. She presses that ridiculous little souvenir sailor hat on top of your head. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I hope you come sailing again. And
She nods.
she starts to kind of push off with her foot, and the boat kind of rocks in the waves a little bit, but as the waves push in and then pull back out, it starts to pull the boat away from the shore.
Jessica, I think, looks for a while. She just stands on the shore watching Kat sail away. She still has the hat on, and she kind of takes it off and she looks at it and she holds it to her chest and says to no one in particular, just, "If you do anything, please just let me keep this." Because I would imagine that on the actual day, she took it off and probably just discarded it, thinking it was some very silly, childish hat. But now that she's holding it again in her memory, she folds it and puts it in her pocket after just like kind of holding it to her chest for a moment or two before she then makes her way to the lighthouse.
As you turn and walk towards the lighthouse, the camera stays right there. As you walk away, We see the light just whoosh, whoosh. And on that third revolution, we just see the lighthouse on the beach. And in the same way that lighthouse stands tall, painted white on the beach, so too stands Algernon, tall, dressed in a white suit, standing in front of Billy. William. I see you're finally ready to talk with me. I can't hear what you're saying. You'll have to speak up.
Sorry. I was ready from the moment you presented me with the idea. Then all kinds of craziness happened. We were back at the first day of school, and we were somehow in my house that was slightly different, and it seemed like everyone was dying.
Yes, that was an unfortunate momentary loss of control. There is a force exerting itself that I will admit to you I had not anticipated. The Nexus will fight us, William. They will try to wrest control from us.
How do we bring them down? How do we stop it?
Sometimes, when you are trying to solve the problem, I find rather than tinker around, poking at this and prodding at that and investigating this outcome, that it is best to simply wipe the board and start at the beginning. That is what I intend to do, William. If you are still with me, you, me, and the others, we will amplify again, and we will push this iteration to its breaking point. It's fractured. It's cracking. It's beyond repair.
This iteration breaks. What will that mean for the mirror?
Mirror is a constant. The jealous mirror exists outside of the iterations. Wherever we go, there will be a jealous mirror.
How do we get her out?
And that is one of the problems that I think we can only solve by going back to the beginning.
Do we have the ability to rewrite the iteration before she went in?
You are thinking on a very small scale, William. This is not about simply rewriting the iteration. I want to take us to the beginning before there were iterations. I want to take us all the way to the beginning. I want to take us all the way to the Genesis.
Will that change us from what we are? If it's traveling back in time?
You've traveled through time many times. Are you any different than when you went in?
No, but the changes that we have made have changed us.
I believe that you and your friends You are not constant, but you are something different. We know that you are anomalies, but you are able to both be changed by and to exert change upon these iterations. But if we can go before the iterations, what might you be able to do then? That's what I want to know. Imagine, William, the beginning of all things, when the jealous mirror was first formed. Imagine being there to exert your will upon it. You could become the master of the mirror.
What would that entail?
That's what we are going to discover together, my boy. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. Are you still with me?
As long as the plan rescues Anne, I'm in.
Algernon steps forward and he places his hands on your shoulders in much the way that Jerry had placed them a few moments before. He looks you in the eyes and he says, I want you to believe me and trust me when I tell you that that is the first and foremost thing that I want for you, William.
Now, Billy is no pushover, and he knows that Algernon has done some shady shit. So I actually want to spend a pop here and use my intuitive. Is he lying when he says that?
So your intuitive basically is you spend a pop.
I spend a pop. I can ask one question about the NPC.
And I basically have to tell you.
Correct.
Algernon tells you the truth.
Okay. I know I could have been a whole lot more devious with my question, but I'm thinking like Billy. He's reading the words, and sure, Ted knows that there's ramifications well beyond. Okay, well, what happens when Anne comes out? She's a bad guy. Blah blah blah. But he's just thinking about he wants his girl back.
Listening to his words and trying to intuit what he is saying, Algernon 100% is being truthful when he says that he wants you to be able to rescue Anne. Well then,
That's good to hear.
I've kept you long enough. I do believe, and he kind of goes like this and he looks at his watch, makes an adjustment, as he says, I do believe you are due in chemistry class. And he gestures to the trees where between two trees there is a green door with a brass handle. After you.
So I walk up to the door, and before I grab the handle, I, once again stop. I pull out the mirror, look to see whether, and reaches out to me as Jessica had done to Craig. And when I don't get a response, I pocket the mirror, step to the door.
And As you walk through the door, Algernon hesitates for just a moment. And he looks around the forest. And he looks back through the door after where you went. And he says, "Yes. I want nothing more than for you to get what you want. Then I will get what I want." And he follows you through the door. And as the door closes, that is where we're going to end our session. Those spaces in between. All right, well, I had mentioned when we took our brief break to these players that I like doing these situations where I can kind of say, hey, what is this place that we're going to be? And then we sort of riff off of that and build story together. I also like this is obviously was sort of an opportunity with a couple players down to. It's kind of a callback to when you guys got stuck in between iterations, answering questions for the Nexus. It's kind of in that same vein, but a chance to pause and reflect and learn some things and ask some questions and maybe get some answers. And in hindsight, I'm realizing we didn't roll a single die that entire session.
Nope,
not once. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with playing an entire session without rolling a die. But no, I enjoyed that very much. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you have questions as well. I thank everybody who joined us this evening. Thanks for all of the wonderful subs and gift subs and community subs, and we've got people subbing in at 70 and 50 and 13 months, and it doesn't matter if it's your first month or your 70th month. We are very appreciative to have you here. And if you are somebody that likes to lurk quietly in the background, or you're watching with us on VOD later on, we appreciate you as well. And we hope you enjoy our presentations, our games, our momentary escapes from reality. Be sure to join us for some of our other streams that we have on other nights of the week, other games coming in the future. We've just a reminder that tomorrow, I think if you look up Todd Stashwick, or if you check me on social media, probably most prominently will be on Instagram. We will be sharing the information for the charity stream celebrity D&D game auction that goes live tomorrow. And remember, mark your calendars for December 7th. That's a Saturday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, for Legends of Eleonora, Secret of the Frozen Flame. Hope to see you there for that. With that, I want to say a final thank you to these amazing players. That yet another wonderful chapter in the Paradise series told tonight with my amazing friends Chad, Tamiko, Ted, and Em. And though they weren't with us here tonight, they were with us in spirit, Carrie and Jeremy, without whom this would just be me talking to myself for a couple hours. With that, we're going to go ahead and end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.